Please mute if you're on. Have your speaker on. Please mute.
Okay. The time now is 10:06 a.m. We are joined here this morning by our new comptroller, Brad Lander, and we welcome you to our meeting and open the floor for any comments you'd like to make, sir.
I hope. Okay. Very good. Okay. Thank you so much, Chair Brown. Good morning to our UFA and UFOA delegates and representatives, and to everyone from the Bureau of Asset Management and our other trustees who are on the call. Really an honor to be here with you this morning for my first meeting at the Fire Pension Fund. And of course, delighted to be joined by Allison Hirsch, who will be representing me as trustee here. Allison's got a long history in the labor movement, fighting for working people and helping make city government work better. So grateful to have her. I know you're not necessarily too thrilled that you're going to keep seeing John Dorsa. But one, I got to say, it makes all the meetings a lot more entertaining. But seriously helps us do our job of working with all of you in a real way, and I really have appreciated working with John. And look, I'll just start by saying it really is it's easy to lose track of, but like the obligation to make sure that folks who have showed up every day and risked their lives to keep New Yorkers safe have retirement security is pretty profound. So I take it for real. Like, it's our job to evaluate the investments, make sure they're good, pay attention to the bottom line, compare the numbers, make the process work better. But just stepping in at a moment when it's a pretty sacred duty. You know, I know we lost a firefighter this week, Christopher Viviano. He's in our memory. I last night was up at a vigil at the 3-2, and there was a whole battalion of firefighters up there. You know, the set of folks who are working today and who did that work, we owe a lot to. So I really take that seriously. You know, I'm the son of public sector workers myself, and look really forward with you to making sure we're living up to that obligation in the very best possible ways that we can. I know that over the past months and years, you know, there have been some times when the controller's office and the trustees in general, not just at Fire, that we've got some work to do to kind of strengthen and improve things on our end so that you really see what we're doing. We're doing to show up for the members, to show up for the funds. And we've already had some really good conversations. You know, I know we're working, and in many ways at your suggestions, some of your suggestions, to get some more flexibility in the basket clause up in Albany so we can make some additional private market investments that our advisors tell us will do better to make sure that we have the returns we want to see. That's something I've heard from you and want to make sure that we're working hard to deliver. That's our priority up in Albany. I know you guys have some others as well, but your support on it would be really helpful. I know that this is maybe effort number 5 or 6 to make that happen, but there's some reasons to be optimistic with a new governor, with some new political dynamics, to think hopefully we can make that happen this year. I have heard from you a real desire and talked with our new interim chief investment officer, Mike Haddad, who is on the Zoom, and I know shares this with me, to make sure that we are really looking at the specific needs of the Fire Fund, identifying investments that are sized and organized appropriately to make sure, given your asset class allocation, given the funding levels, that we are paying real attention to making sure that the fund it gets the individual attention it needs. You know, this will be for Allison and John and Mike. I think, you know, manager presentations number 4 from Welsh Carson and, you know, Lexington and the others. And whether or not doing each individual manager presentation over and over again is a value add, we'll come back to. But what I want you to know for sure is that providing real individual attention to the fund, understanding its particular needs, thinking about it on a regular basis is something that I am personally committed to, that Mike is committed to, that Allison and John are committed to, and that we're going to make sure we work together with you to do. So an honor to be here today. I appreciate I'm being lent a room for my next meeting, so I'm going to jump out when the presentations start. But I really look forward to working with you in the days and years to come. So thank you for welcoming me.
And thank you so much for joining us. Mr. Executive Director, may I have a roll call, please?
Certainly, Madam Chair. For Mayor Adams.
Cynthia Collins, designee for Mayor Eric Adams.
Okay, for Controller Lander.
Controller Brad Lander, I'm here, and Allison Hirsch will be here when I step out.
Perfect, thank you.
Hey, Pat, it's Eddie Brown. Doug Mosley just sent a thing saying, could somebody resend him the link?
Okay, we're taking care of it. The Controller's office is on it. For Commissioner of Finance, Nyblack.
Shumon Ray.
Okay. For the UFA, Mr. Andrew Ansbro.
Bobby Eustace with Andy Ansbro's proxy.
Mr. Eustace.
Just Bobby Eustace present.
Mr. Edward Brown.
Present.
Mr. Eric Bischoff.
Good morning, President.
Mr. Peter DeVita.
Good morning, present.
And for the UFOA, Mr. Christopher Jensen.
Here.
Mr. Liam Guilfoyle.
Here.
Mr. Paul Mannix.
Here.
And for Fire Commissioner Daniel Nigro.
Carol Brown for Commissioner Nigro.
We have a quorum. Good morning, all.
Public agenda.
So, sorry, first time here. At this time, we wanted to recognize that there was a proposed resolution that was circulated to trustees prior to the meeting regarding a change to the basket clause. Mike Adon is on the phone, I should say on the Zoom, and I thought it would be appropriate for him to address any questions that trustees have about what the strategy is, or I should say what the rationale is from an investment standpoint. And Allison certainly can talk about what the strategy would be going forward. So with that, I'll just turn it over to Mike to give just a high level of why this is important and ultimately what I believe is necessary for the sustainability of the fund. So, Mike.
Yeah, good morning, all. Thanks, John. Just confirming that everyone can hear me clearly. Okay, great. So you know, we've gone at the basket clause with Albany a couple different times during my 6 years with working with everyone here, and we're going at it again. It is a constraining factor on each system strategic asset allocation. We cannot allocate to the highest risk reward asset classes as we would like to, given the constraints of the basket clause. So I have, you know, from the first day I met Brad to the last time I spoke with him, it is top of agenda from my perspective at all times. He quickly got it, marshaling resources to help all of us with that. So Brad, once again, thank you for your leadership on this. And slight tweak to how we're going about it this time. As a reminder, the last effort in 2020, we specifically addressed the threshold in foreign equities and what percentage of those go into the basket. Current legislation constrains that at 10%, meaning anything over 10% goes into that scarce resource that we call basket assets. In your portfolio, I forget the exact percent, but your combination of international, developed, and emerging markets is somewhere between 18 and 20%. So that chews up key basket space. So we are going to Albany with a request to look at that one proposal. But in addition, we're simplifying it and also asking for basket relief from 25% to 35%. The rationale for that change is that has been done in the past, decades ago, but might be easier from a legislative perspective to get done. So we are working with contacts in Albany and trying to get this proposed legislation in the governor's 30-day amendments to her budget, which then Albany will vote on in aggregate between the governor, the assembly, and the Senate. And I just want to reinforce how thankful I am to Brad and his team for marshaling resources, how important it is for all of us, and how important it is to have your support in doing so as well. So in brevity, let me just pause there for any questions or comments.
If I could start, it's Liam Guilfoyle. Just to clarify, are we looking for one or both in regards to the basket relief, 25 to 35, or the international equities relief? Just wanted to.
Our specific ask this time is either one of them. We have a slight preference, but we'd be happy with either one of them. We'd be thrilled with either one of them.
Which one would you prefer?
The change in international equities.
Thank you.
But Liam, I will say, based upon the calculations from our risk team, it's first of all, it's based upon three key variables with 10-year projections, and the level of confidence around those, is appropriate, meaning, not absolute. So it leads us to a slight preference, but I'm just going to reinforce we would be thrilled with either one of them.
Yeah, and can I just comment too to build on what Mike said? I agree that I think the changing the international equity constraint, which is in a policy standpoint is kind of a group constraint, that will give us a lot of relief, but it also is, from prior conversations, John can comment, is the most. I think the change legislatively is like one line or something, because that's just a cleaner change. You're just shifting that one reference in the legislation. So it was more elegant in that sense, and it was simple, but it gives you just as much relief and in the right areas.
And I'll just chime in. I mean, the reason for including them both is more, I don't want to call it political. What would we think giving Albany some options seemed like a good idea. And I'll just reflect that for myself, as I was learning about this, you start explaining it to people by explaining why a larger basket is a good idea. And then you have to start explaining, well, why global equities count in this odd way that they do, where over 10%. So this was just a thought of like, okay, if either of these will get the relief needed, let's present them with a choice. And if there's a reason why, as they're going through, one or the other makes more sense to somebody either in the governor's office or along the way in the legislature, then fine. They can have a hand in helping us design it and get it across the finish line.
In full disclosure, I really appreciate it. We've been trying to work on this since I got onto the pension board, and Doug and I have spoken about this many times. Doug has even said even just 5% relief would give us a tremendous amount of ability to move in downturns when there's dislocations in the market. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
So with that, the question that I have is really just a preference of the board. Would you like to take action to adopt the resolution right now, or are you going to do it at the conclusion of the meeting? Yeah, and are there any other comments from any of the other trustees that aren't in the room?
John, this is Cindy Collins. I just wanted to lend our support from the mayor's office and the commissioner of finance as well. We think, especially in looking at the efficient frontier, and when you're doing the asset allocation, the basket clause constraints do not allow the fund to really do a fulsome asset allocation and take advantage of where we could deploy assets. So we're in full support of the comptroller's efforts in trying to update this arcane provision in the law.
So if there's a motion,
John, may I just jump in with a question? For Mike, you had mentioned that basket clauses had been changed in the past. Is that in different classes, or were those changes only temporary and now we're looking for a permanent change in the legislation up in Albany?
So there was a large change in 2004, where the legislature took it from 15 to 25. There's been some minor altercations through the years where there was a provision regarding a real estate, how to calculate a real estate position that was amended several years ago. But the full-scale change from 15 to 25, which is probably the most significant, took place about in 2004, I believe, that legislative year.
And can I just add, it's Jennifer Konovitz, that the foreign equities cap has not been raised since 1993.
So with that, if we've answered your question, Lieutenant, Captain, I think you had a,
Make a motion to support this legislation that the comptroller has brought forth in Albany.
Second, Bobby Eustace.
All in favor?
Aye.
thank you, Captain, for helping the lieutenant along.
Oh,
I now
believe-
invite a motion to move out of public session into executive session.
Motion.
Second.
Is there a second? Oh, okay, thank you.
Second.
Okay, so now we're in executive session. I'm just going to,
So we are now back in public session. During executive session, the board voted on several investments and had other discussions. And with that, I'd invite a motion to adjourn this meeting.
Motion to adjourn.
second.
Thank you all and see you next month.